Hello, my name is Rachel. I am a knitter, a crocheter, a mom, a teacher, and a wife. And today I wanted to discuss with you my current works in progress, or yeah, as well as one acquisition, and just to give some updates about my current goals for 2024 that I have been successful in doing. So if you are interested, stay tuned to hear all about my current knitting and crochet experience. So I'll start off with acquisitions because it would allow me to go into what I'm hoping to do for 2024 in addition to my cables. So as I shared in previous videos, I really want to refrain from buying an excessive amount of yarn. I've been doing a really good job about being really intentional about the yarn I'm purchasing, very similar to I did at the beginning of my knitting journey. I used to only buy yarn for the particular pattern I was going to do. And then at that particular time, I used to buy the more inexpensive yarn, not realizing that certain yarns you really need to make sure that you invest in because certain patterns aren't going to come out the way that you hope them to come out if you don't invest in the right yarn. So I had to learn that the hard way, unfortunately. However, now that I have acquired that knowledge and I have accumulated a significant amount of yarn and my stash is looking as great as it is, I do want to be a little bit more conscious about my purchases, which is why I've only made one acquisition that was made on December 30th, and it's already here, so that just tells you how great it is. Unfortunately, I have no idea the name of the company. I didn't even bother to look. I was watching a podcast by the Black Knitter. I really enjoy her Instagram posts, and occasionally she will post on a YouTube vlog about her current knitting or crochet journey. I think she mostly does crochet knitting. I don't think she's ever posted anything about crochet now that I think about it. But anywho, I really enjoy her posts and whatnot, and it's really comforting. And she was talking about that she helped design this particular kit, and I was like, oh, I'll check it out. And so I saw it and I was like, oh, these are the colors perfect. It looks very similar to the Pan African flag. So I wanted to purchase it. And when I saw the colors, I immediately thought about the pattern of the shawl pattern. Let me just bring this a little closer. It's called the Harlem Renaissance. It's 75% merino wool, 25% recycled nylon. You get 432 skeins, excuse me, 432 yards of yarn. In the mini skeins, I have 56 yards. They're each 20 grams. This is really soft. Given the fact that there's a higher nylon content in it, I was actually a little surprised by how soft it is. So I'm actually looking forward to working with it. I'm hoping to use it to make my shawl that's called, I'm looking at my pattern notes, so forgive me if I'm not looking at the camera. It's called Coming Together by Lisa Ross. This particular shawl is a fingering weight. It allows you an opportunity to really do a great stash buster. So in addition to using the colors that are in the packet, I'm hoping to use some of the other yarns I have in my stash. I have a surplus and I'm hoping to stick to this particular colorway. Like I have a lighter green. I have a similar color to this. Black is I don't have another red, so I'll see. Maybe I can throw in a pink or a maroon because I know I have that, or maybe even purple. And I have a few balls of yarn that are blue. I'm like looking at that now. And I have actually, I'm looking at a purple right now that will look really well with that. So I'm excited about casting that on. That will be a shawl that I'm planning on casting on before the end of February. That's when I'm hoping it will be my February knit. She hosts the Black Knitter is what she's called on her podcast as well as on her Instagram. She hosts this it is a Black History Month knit along where you have the opportunity to support a Black business, Black yarn dyer, what else? You can support a Black designer, just those individuals who are just underrepresented in the knitting community. It gives them an opportunity to be celebrated for their contributions as well, because unfortunately we are few far in between in this particular world, and there's many of us who do so. It's just we're not given the recognition that we deserve. So with all that said, not to get too political on this, I'm really am excited about joining that particular knit along, and I hope to do the Lisa Ross. Although the pattern is not designed by a Black woman, the yarn kit is, and the other yarns I'm using will also come from a Black designer, a Black yarn dyer actually, and I wanted to show this. This is, now I know the name of this company. This acquisition came in before. This was my holiday gift to myself, so this does not count as the no buy. This was not purchased after December 30th, but this particular yarn dyer, she calls her company Threads. Her name is Megan Nicole, and I absolutely love her yarn. So this is the most recent skein I purchased, and I saw it. I had to get it between the glitter and just the beautiful colorway. The colorway I'm holding in my hand is called Gothic Beauty. It's a sock sparkles, 409 yards of yarn, superwash merino, and 8%, 92% superwash merino and 8% Larix, I believe it's called. You can hand wash this according to her tab. I plan to use this. I would love to use this in a fingering weight sweater, one of those lightweight ones, because I think this will be really pretty just to have at the top for a really nice fancy yoke. One of the patterns I'm considering to doing, hang on one second, I want to scroll down to it because I want to give you this because I'm really am excited about this particular pattern. It's my second version of a ranunculus, and I love the pattern, but man alive, do I mess up on that thing often. I've made 3 or 4 of them. For some reason, I'm really great at getting through the first half of the yoke, and then when I get to the bottom, I just always mess up on that section. But I think the more I do it, the better I'll get at it. But anyway, the pattern I'm interested in using this particular yarn for is called True Nature by Stephanie Lupton. It's a fingering weight yarn that calls for, let me just bring up the pattern. It calls for about 800 to 2,045 yards of yarn, and it's super size inclusive. It starts at size 1 and goes all the way up to size 10 in terms of the measurements. And when I say that, she includes pattern, the pattern also has between 6 to 7 inches of positive ease. You can do this as a full length sweater, or you can do this as a cropped sweater. I really love it. I think it's super gorgeous, and I think it would be perfect for that transitional weather. I know that I live in a really cold climate, but sometimes the heat is just blasting, and even though it's freezing outside, it's super hot inside. So I think if I make myself a fingering weight sweater, that this will give me the comfort I need while I'm in a building, but also give me the warmth I need when I'm outside. So I'm planning on casting on that sweater using this yarn before the end of this year as well. So if I'm not wearing it for this winter, I can at least wear it for next winter, especially for next New Year's. I would love for that to be my New Year sweater. So those are 2 acquisitions I got that I'm hoping to turn into a garment that I want to make for this year. The final acquisition I got for this year that I'm hoping to turn into either a hat or a sweater is this from the same company. Gotta get it. Okay, it's from the same company, Threads by Megan Nicole. This is gorgeous as well. This is called Moon Shadow, and hopefully the lighting is letting you see how beautiful this is. I'm gonna bring my other little lamp to give it some more light. Oh, I know artificial light is not always the best this time of day, but this is the only time of day I have to film when the school year is starting. So forgive me, please. Anywho, with this particular skein of yarn, you get 435 yards of yarn. It's superwash merino wool, 10% nylon, 10% cashmere, and the rest is superwash. I said 435 yards, correct? And it's considered sock weight. I have never seen anything so beautiful before, and I'm hesitant about casting it on because it's just too pretty. But more than likely, I think I'm going to make an Oslo hat with this. When I saw it, I was like, oh my God, an Oslo would be beautiful with this because of the variation. So I'm more than likely going to use that for it. I have another skein of her yarn that I purchased as well. And this is what I purchased last year, during I guess it is last year, last August, during supporting Black Business Month. And this was my contribution by buying this particular skein of yarn. I have not done anything with it. I have shared with people, like, I have this beautiful skein of yarn. I don't know quite what to do with it. I want to do something nice with it. And I have a top I can make by Kadri, and I believe it's called the Love Note. I believe not on yeah, I think it's called the Love Note. Let me actually bring it up. Or maybe it's called the Home, what is this? The Home Camisole. So I could make the Home Camisole with this. I think I would need another skein of this yarn in order to fully make it, based on what I'm reading from the pattern. Another pattern that I'm considering making, I'm not a big fan of making shawls. I only make between 1 to 2 a year, but there is a shawl that's called the Rainbow Marl Triangle. It looks really pretty, and it looks like you're holding it together with another yarn to give it a little bit of a marl look. And these colors naturally blend into each other so well. So I'm afraid I might put the wrong marl yarn into it, so we'll see. And the third option I'm considering with using this yarn, let me just bring it up. It's called, I believe it's called the Crescendo Slipover. Maybe it's not. It's called the Crescendo Camisole. I called it the wrong name. The reason why I like that particular pattern so much is that it's a lacework pattern. It has really great reviews online. I've seen variations of it, and it works out really well. And I think it would be flattering to my body type. So that's the reason why I'm leaning towards doing that. In addition, why I'm thinking about using this particular yarn in itself is that I can do the lacework, pretty much the entire front part of it, in this yarn. And then I have some fingering weight yarn that I can potentially stripe at the bottom. I can get really creative with it. So I have those options to consider. So with all that said, I'm really excited about my most recent acquisitions and the potential items that I can use them for. So that's all the acquisitions I have. I've already shared in a previous video about my goals for this year. And one of my main goals, sorry, just washed my hair and it's like still wet and touching my neck, and it's like, oh. But anywho, one of the goals I have for 2024 is to make 4 cable sweaters. I know I said earlier in my videos I was going to use my bare naked wool to make the Cloud Peak cardigan. I was all gun-ho in doing that until I got the inspiration to use it for sweater number 20, which I'm glad I did. So just to really quickly share where I'm at, it is, let me back up a little bit so you can see how big. So it's growing. I know this is for the back side, but you can see I'm almost done with the back. I'm almost ready to pick up sleeves at the top. I actually only have 7 more rows left to do with making the back belt, and then I'm going to be picking up sleeves for that, which I'm glad about. So yeah, it's coming along really nice. Really love it. Pattern's still really easy to read. I am enjoying, I made some mistakes here in the smaller cable, and I'm not quite sure as to why I keep making the mistake. I can't figure out what I'm doing. I'm still leaning the cable needle in the right way, so I don't know. But yeah, the 2 right here I have made consistent mistakes in, but then this one, I know, let me bring it closer. This one I haven't made too many, and this one over here I haven't made any. But the bigger cable I'm fine with. There hasn't been any mistakes yet, so, which is good. I'm enjoying this, and I'm so glad I cast it on. And I was right about this wool. This wool really does highlight and show off stitch work definition in such a beautiful way. So I have 0 regrets about reusing or repurposing this yarn for this pattern. I'm glad I did so. It's looking amazing. And tonight I'm supposed to be working only on my tessellated vest, so I'm putting this on hold. Maybe I'll work on this tomorrow, but my fingers are itching to put this back on, so who knows, I might change my mind again. It does call for a bit more attention, just paying attention where you're at, or if you're on the left side or the right side. So that's one of the reasons why I want to make sure if I do pick it up this evening that I'm super focused. I don't have it with me. I am still working on my Copenhagen cardigan. I made a little schedule for myself, as I mentioned before, about which day of the week I'm working on it. So I was supposed to do 2 inches of it on Wednesday, and so I was able to do that. Ended up doing that last night because I spent too much time on the sweater number 20 to get caught up and get ahead, because I knew I wouldn't be able to work on 9 rows every day after going back to work this week, which I'm glad I did. But doing stockinette is really easy. So I did about 2 inches on it, and I moved it to a different cable and needle, and it sits so nicely on my shoulder. So really am enjoying that knit, and the way it's working up, I probably will be done sooner than later. And one thing I come to realize by doing that particular project, I definitely prefer to make my collar as I'm going. So I'm hoping that for my future cardigans that I plan on doing, like my Cloud Peak cardigan or my litho cardigan, that I can actually work the collar as I'm working the pattern in itself. And I think I will be able to do that. With the lint though, it's probably going to be even easier because it's brioche flat for the collar. So I should be able to do that. I'm going to continue to practice my brioche, and my hope is that by March I will be casting on that particular cardigan, and my hope is that by February I'll be casting on the Cloud Peak cardigan, because both are really, really important to me, and I really just can't wait to wear them next fall, because it will be here before you know it. The final project that I'm working on right now, as I just mentioned, is my tessellated vest. I have, ooh, it's all tangled up. All right, so the pattern when you are done knitting it in a round, it invites you to either put the stitches on hold on like waste yarn or on one of those barber cables, or using a spare needle set. I chose to use a spare needle set, so that's what I did. So half of it is on the spare needle, and the other half I'm working on right now. I know it's a little hard to see, so I'm going to turn it where it's a little better. I have did the neck shaping. It's stockinette, so it rolls up really easily. I've done the neck shaping. I'm now about to start just focusing on one shoulder and working that up. And then once that's done, and we'll be putting the stitches on hold, then I'll switch on the other side and do another shoulder. After careful deliberation, I have decided that I want a thicker shoulder strap. Initially I was going to make it narrow, but I didn't like it. But maybe now that I'm looking at it in a better lighting, I can see, okay, let me just hold that up. This is going to be the width of my shoulder, and ooh, there we go. Okay, maybe that is a little too wide. So I'll do another decrease for the neck, just to give it a little bit more of a narrow shape, because the pattern calls for a specific amount of stitches for the shoulder. It's a paid for pattern. That's the reason why I'm not sharing. So I'll go ahead and reduce the shoulder just a little bit in order to make sure that it's more of a fitted, because I don't want it to be too thin, but I don't want to be too wide either. So yeah, I guess I will be reducing it some more. So I'm going to work on this particular pattern this evening. My hope, as I said, I don't know why I keep saying this phrase today. Well, as I said before, my hope is that I am finished with this by the end of this month. And to be honest with you, if I were to really dedicate a whole weekend to this, I really could actually finish this in a weekend, because the only thing I have left is doing the front shoulders and doing the back, and then doing the back shoulders. There's no sleeves. You're just doing, it looks like a little bit of ribbing on the sleeve. So it's like I think I have about 12, maybe 16 hours left. 16 meaning that if I make mistakes or whatnot, left to do it. So we shall see when it comes to my tessellated vest. One other project I wanted to share that I am working on. Sorry, my phone was sitting right behind it. I randomly decided to cast on a pair of socks. And the socks I initially cast on, I did not like I want to do a pair of self-striping socks. That's one of my 2024 goals, and one of my whips that I wanted to make sure I got on my needles at the start of the year was a pair of socks. I actually cast this on December 31st. So I'm going to bring this as close as possible. Here we go. This is a Woolens and Nosh yarn. Let me actually share with you. And it was perfect. It reflects my mood. It reflected my mood about going back, because I really enjoyed having some time off and spending quality time with my family. So I felt like I was being a bunch of sour grapes about going back to work, and that's the name of the yarn. It's called Sour Grapes. It's a fingering weight yarn. It's 90% superwash Targhee, and 10% nylon. You get 411 yards per every 100 grams of yarn. I really am enjoying this. This colorway is gorgeous. The pattern that I'm using is a free pattern. I just found a toe up. Actually, I'm not really following a pattern now that I think about it, because I initially was using a pattern that I got out of a knitting book, but I didn't like the instep stitch design. It just, once I saw it coming to light, I'm like, oh, this doesn't really fit my style. So I decided to scrap that particular project. But I did want to still do something toe up, and I wanted to do a self-striping pattern. So I rewatched a video about how to do a toe up cast on, and now I just increased until it was comfortable, and now I'm going to work the foot. I don't think I need to do any more increasing. I have a very long, narrow foot. I mean, very long. I'm almost a size 12. My feet are so big, especially since having children. It feels like that's bigger. But yeah, this is, I really am glad I cast this on. It took everything not to pick this up and work on it. This is not one of the assigned knits. Tomorrow I'm supposed to be taking my son to the movies with one of his friends, and so I plan to bring this project with me. So it's really easy, it's small, and it's easy to carry around. Speaking of projects to bring with you, I'm curious if any of you have ever done this. So I love knitting and crochet. I don't deny that. Anyone who knows me knows that it's a big part of my life, especially in the most recent years. My son had a play date over winter break, that the second half of the winter break after the Christmas holiday. So I made the plans and all that other jazz. For my oldest son, my 9-year-old, I took him to go to Dave & Buster's. I had my knitting with me. I wanted to walk around to keep an eye on him because it was pretty busy. A lot of families were there, and I just felt more comfortable just to be in his company until I got used to being in the place. And so I had my knitting with me. Then the next day, my youngest son had it's just my son's playing right now, so they're a little loud if you hear any yelling. They're playing a wrestling game on their Xbox. So yeah. Anywho, I took my youngest son to his play date, and I packed the biggest to-go bag with me because initially the play date was supposed to be a drop-off, but the mom invited me to hang out. I was like, all right. Usually I don't. She's like, oh, would you like a cup of tea? And it was just a wet, rainy day, so I was like, oh, it's a perfect day for a green tea. And I never had Moroccan green tea before, and it was delish. So I came in, we hung out, and she had to go take a call in another room. I went to my car, I took out my big old bag. Do you know I packed 4 different projects with me? I packed this project that I have in my hands right now. I didn't even have it fully on my needles yet, but I packed that with me. I also packed the Copenhagen. I packed the, what was the other one? I packed the Weekender Light, and there was one more. Oh, and I bought my crochet hook just in case I wanted to cast on a crochet project while I was there. I didn't need all those projects with me. I didn't need but one. I could have just bought this one with me, and it would have been fine. But do you do that when you are traveling, or you know you're going to be at a place for a certain amount of time? Do you bring a lot of your crafts with you? Because now when I go out of town, I kid you not, I have to have my crafts with me, and I have to have at least 2 projects. And I know every time I travel, I always look to see where is the nearest yarn store in case I have a project and I finish it early. Because one time I traveled, I think it was to Arizona for work. I'm in Arizona, and I finished my project that I had bought with me. I thought it was going to take me the whole time, but instead I finished it like right then and before I got off the plane. And I'm like, what am I going to do this whole time? And so fortunately, I found a yarn store, went to the yarn store, had a ball of yarn wound up. It was my hedgehog fibers yarn, and I ended up casting it on another Ozel hat. Sorry. End up casting that on and used a completely raw needle size because I was using the needles I had with me. I ended up knitting that size ended up using a needle size of 3.5, and the pattern calls for, the one I use calls for 3.0. 3.0 millimeters, which I guess is a US 2, if I remember correctly. So I now, ever since that experience, I refuse to leave the house without at least 2 projects just in case I finish one faster than the other. So I'm just curious if anyone else is in that boat where you can't leave to go travel anywhere where you know you're going to be away from your stash for a period of time, if you can just leave the house with just one. I can't do it anymore. I used to be able to, but if I know we're going to the movies or if we're going to be in the car for a long period of time, I am bringing at least 2 projects. When we drove to New York, I had 2 projects with me just in case I had got bored with making the hem. I wanted to have a backup project because it's nothing worse when you have a project you don't really want to work on and it's the only one you have with you, because I have actually been in that situation too. And it seems to happen to me every time I'm at work and I have an extended lunch, or if I have courier duty. I'm like, I need something to do with with my hands that's going to keep my attention occupied. So that's something I've been doing lately. Just making sure I overpack for my long excursions. So yeah, I was just curious if anyone else did that. I was laughing at myself as we were driving home that I brought this big old tote bag full of knitting and crochet items. I even bought my book with me, just to be on the safe side, because you just never know when things happen and you need to occupy yourself, which I'm glad I had it with me, because while she was on her work call, the kids were totally not paying me any attention. And so I ended up needing something to do, and I couldn't read with them there because they're kids and they're loud. And so I ended up knitting, but it just entertained me. It tickled me. But anyway, that's pretty much it. I shared with you about my most recent acquisitions. My works in progress is still works in progress. I don't have any finished objects at the moment, other than my champagne cardigan that I have worn at least twice. Yeah, I wore it twice. I wore it on Wednesday and Thursday. Today I just wore a sweatshirt to wear because it was really cold. Even though that sweater is ridiculously warm. Like, I love it. I know I can wear a t-shirt with it and still feel warmth on my arms. I wore it with a vest, one of those puff vests yesterday. It felt so good. Hopefully I can insert a picture of me wearing it at work. I absolutely love the way I look in that sweater. So I'm so proud of myself for making it, and I'm loving how the Copenhagen is turning out. So far, I am looking really, the 2024 crafting experience is looking really great. So I'm gonna put these socks down and find a pattern to make sure I don't go rogue. I most likely will refer to the No Fear shorty sock set. That she has such a great tutorial. I'm trying to do an afterthought heel. So I was watching Knitty Natty is the one I actually use. I'm sorry, I should have mentioned this. The tutorial I used in order to do this particular cast on, I did the Judy's Magic Cast On. I'm using the Knitty Natty tutorial. So as you can see, you get this beautiful, hopefully, there it goes. Focus on that. It gives you this beautiful cast on right here, and it's so seamless. And then you increase, and she goes over this in the tutorial, you increase to your desired width. So for me, I noticed that when I have between 60 to 62 stitches so 30 to 31 on each side, it's a better fit. When I have 64, it's a little too loose. So 66 is too big, but 64 can be a little too loose, especially if the yarn stretches out. The only one that I had that was 64, I'm sorry, I thought I had it with me. I was like, oh, let me grab them. But I did have one pair of socks that I've made, the ones I wear more often, which is why it's not with me. They have to be washed. They're in the other room ready, waiting for that. I cast on 64 for that one, but it's a ribbing and it's 100% wool. So I think that's the reason why those socks fit a little bit better. But given the fact that this is more of a, no, it's not 100% wool, I apologize. It's 100% alpaca. So with this is a super wash, right? No, yes, it is a superwash Target. I don't even know what type of wool that is, but it's working up so nicely. And Woolen and Nosh this is my first time using their yarn, and I'm so glad I picked this particular colorway. I'm having so much fun with it, and I'm loving the striping effect. I really just want to keep working it just to see what color is going to come next. The next striped socks I want to put on is another Woolens and Nosh um, skein. This one is called Fancy Smanchy. I shared with this before. This reminds me more of Christmas, so I'm hoping that for next Christmas, next year, these will be my Christmas socks as well. I know the lighting here is really bad, and it's not giving you the beauty of this, but this is definitely going to be a pair of socks. I do have other yarns that could be potential socks, but who knows if I'll ever cast them on. I really do like this whole self-striping situation. I can see myself doing this more and more. I hoping that I can get creative. I'm sorry, I'm like looking at my finger. I'm like, ooh, getting ideas. But I'm enjoying the self-striping socks, and I think I can see myself knitting another pair. Well, I'm definitely knitting those, but I can see myself knitting another pair. I do have a skein of yarn from Needles at the Ready, but when I purchased it, I initially thought about using that only for Oslo hat, but looking at it over the top of my shoulders, I can kind of see it being used in a pair of socks. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. So let me stop talking so that way I can put this stuff away and get to knitting for the rest of the evening. So that is it. I am going to come back in a few days to share an update. My next scheduled time to work on my cables sweater isn't until Saturday, no, either Sunday or Monday. Like I said before, I made a schedule for myself, and I'm determined to stick to it, so that way all my projects will get the attention. But I don't want to go more than 48 hours without working on my cable pattern, because I'm afraid I might, I don't know, I don't want to lose the momentum, nor do I want to lose the muscle memory of how to make the pattern as well. So, and the same rule goes for this particular tessellated vest. So I'm going to go ahead and get into it. I have all my stuff set up around my room, so I'm good to go. And I just want to say thank you so much for spending some time with me this evening to hear about my current knitting whips. My hope is the next time that I film that I will be sharing a crochet knitting project I'm hoping to cast on. I don't talk about my crochet projects as much as I should. I absolutely love them. I'm just trying to narrow down which blanket I'm going to do. Expression Fibers, I'm just trying to think of the name. Expression Fibers has this year-long crochet along that they're doing that I'm leaning towards doing for this particular year. I had planned to do one last year, but I just got so caught up in everything that was going on at work, and I'm too in love with knitting, and I just didn't want to dedicate that time to. But I'm really am itchy to do a corner to corner blanket. I haven't done one in a hot minute. The last blanket I made was a Tunisian crochet, and I'm just itchy, excuse me, to make a corner to corner blanket. And I bought this beautiful yarn, as I shared before, from Michaels, that would be perfect for color to color. So I think that's what you're going to see next time when I come together, and I can show you what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope that you have a safe and wonderful weekend and week ahead.